I mean, this is a lot more pleasant tonight, and let's wrap this up as quick as we can so we can go get the watch the baseball game.
Eric, what do you think of Isaiah's performance? Was he better than you thought? And I know you said you weren't going to play him 40, but you played him about 38, I think.
Yeah, so I played him two more. I would have liked to play him 2 more minutes than what I played him. But I thought he was great. We're a whole different team with him. I mean, it was look, we all know it's been a struggle without him for a variety of reasons. We just can't afford a guy like Isaiah not to be in our lineup. And I thought he was awesome. You know, he opens up 3 balls for other people as well, just being out there. And I thought he moved really well. I thought he got a little bit winded at certain stretches. But, you know, look, we won a game at home in double digits and got one of the best players back in uniform tonight in the conference. And you know, now we got to get ready for Tennessee, and we know what happened last time we played them.
Hey, Coach, you had a couple of scoring droughts here tonight. What can you say about the resiliency of the team to be able to come back from those droughts?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has droughts. I mean, you watch, go turn on an NBA game tonight. I mean, Hubie Brown, who I worked for one summer, talked constantly about, and so did my dad, about there's 3 runs in every game, and the team that can control 2 of the 3 wins. And that's a pretty simple formula. But one scoring drought that we did not have, that we have had all year, was a 12-2 run to end the half. The last 4-minute segment have been a real problem for us. It was not tonight. And I expected us to have scoring droughts, to be quite honest. We've run a completely different offense when Isaiah's out there. And we're not playing 2 bigs anymore, and we're playing more guards. We went back to a 5-guard lineup for a stretch, and so we're going to be a little bit discombobulated and sloppy offensively, and we probably will be Wednesday as well. We just have to continue to get – anytime you bring a player back, whether it doesn't matter what sport it is, you're going to have a little bit of feeling out process for the guys to – you know, Mason, now he's got to try kind of figure it out because we relied on – Isaiah. So
coming to you here on KDSJ 479, and I want to say I'm glad to be back on with my guy. Say hi to the people, man. They got to know who our guy is. Demetrius is still getting things organized. We had some things here in the studio that technically we had to take care of. But like I said, when you got the best tech guy in the business, the best producer in the business, we're not going to come on if we're not 100%. But we're 100%. We've been, you know, we were just in the IR for a minute, Demetrius. But say hello to the people. Look at him. He don't want to come on yet. He's slowly by slowly going to come on. But want to also say that was audio from our head basketball coach, Eric Musselman, on Arkansas's big 78-68 victory this following Saturday at Bud Walton Arena on Nolan Richardson Court. I mean, it was a must-win situation, Demetrius. Arkansas had to have this. I mean, they've dug themselves such a big hole. But do you know, I mean, the Joe effect, definitely I think when we start talking about if Arkansas can get on a roll, my man, then I think having Isaiah Joe back as opposed to when they had the 5-game stretch he was without, I think that might be in Arkansas's favor, and they could get in that tournament. But they got to put wins together.
I think they can. I think the absence of Isaiah Joe has kind of gave guys a better understanding of their role. Sometimes you don't understand and appreciate things until they're gone, and I think really guys understand their role to a better degree. Guys that usually would maybe take a couple of more shots that they wouldn't. Normally do now that they've been on that losing streak, they're apt to maybe pass it to Isaiah Joe to give him a couple of more shots. So I think it does the team good. I think there's a little bit more spacing with Joe there. I think it allows guys to unclog that lane and really get through. So I think it's a good thing.
I mean, when you look at the balanced scoring. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 5 guys, double figures, and I continue to be very impressed with Adriel Bailey, the senior, that seems to be stepping to the forefront. Yes, I mean Adriel over the course of his career has been, had some ups and some downs, and I know coming into his senior year, not a lot of expectations for this young man, but he's played the way a senior I think should play in his final campaign. When it's his last go around, he's done all the leadership, and like I said, he stepped up defensively. One of the top defenders on the team, even one of the top defenders in the SEC. And then when you talk about it, I'm really convinced that Desi Seals is more impactful to this team when he's the sixth man off the bench. I mean, Demetrius, tell me somebody that comes off the bench in the six-man role that's going to get 32 minutes in a basketball game and then come off the bench and score 17 points. You have to have a player that can do that. And I think that's, they tried it with Mason Jones, didn't work. But when you go back to the course of the way Desi's played, coming off the bench, even in the former staff with Coach Anderson, the guy has that chip on his shoulder when he comes in the game. And I think that's something that you need. I think that's something Coach Muss and staff will continue to look at by making him that permanent six-man role heading down the stretch.
Yeah, I think it gives Desi the ability to analyze the game, and it allows him to slow the game down just watching, and gives him the ability to watch and see how he can attack the basket. Because to me, he's that slasher guy. When everybody else is kind of chucking up threes and kind of settling for that jump shot, he's the guy that kind of finds his way in to cutting the lane outside of Mason Jones. So I think it's great when you have an offensive threat. And I think, again, that goes back to Isaiah Joe returning, having that ability to keep that six offensive scoring weapon on the bench, when needed, when everybody's kind of having that slump. You can kind of throw him in there sporadically to give guys that spurt. So, I think they're not out of the hunt. I'm not saying they have a for sure lock to go into the tournament, but I think, if they can maybe make it to that semifinals in the SEC round, maybe upset some of those teams that's already guaranteed to stamp their way into the NCAA tournament. I think they can be one of those bubble teams that maybe play their way in. Also due to the star power, because I think when you look at Arkansas and their program and having Musselman come, sometimes it's the storyline behind those teams that get accepted into those tournaments. It's not always the ratings, or I should say their schedule.
Right.
I think sometimes it has to do with the storyline. I think Arkansas will make a good storyline in the tournament.
I know what else is going to make a good storyline, and this is today's topic, and we want to get our viewers and listeners. I want a lot of feedback on this. Arkansas was just notified a few days ago from the SEC office that their request to play their spring game on April 25th at War Memorial Stadium was denied. Arkansas will play that game the same day, April 25th, but in Donald W. Reynolds. In your opinion, in your humble opinion, there's no right, no wrong, but I want feedback on this. Is it a good thing? Are you as a fan okay with it? Are you just, let's be honest, are you pissed off? And if so, what's your reasons? I myself, I enjoy that it's going to be in Fayetteville, not from a media standpoint, but from you step back and just let's be real. You have a chance to have an unofficial or an official visit by a young man that could possibly, and for Coach Sam Pittman and Bryles and Odom, be very special impact players. And when you can get that opportunity to sell your program, to get kids on your campus, I'm a firm believer. You do it. Any opportunity. I mean, you were trying to compete, Demetrius, and recruit against the elite. And what better way to do that than to use your spring game when you know there's going to be a lot of fan interaction? The kids will actually get a chance to feel some of the campus life, but also just a little taste of that fan base, and that's something that might interest that kid if it's just an unofficial to come back and take an official during the football season. But I think it's a bonus. I'm for it. Demetrius, where are you at with their decision to play the game here in Fayetteville, April 25th?
I think it's needed. I think Little Rock is definitely a special place, and it holds a lot of fond memories to a lot of Razorback fans. But I think right now, just it being Sam Pittman's first year, I think he has to build that relationship with immediate ties, and just knowing that the majority of the games are going to be in Fayetteville. I just think he needs to get this fan base all the way on board. I think they spent a lot of money getting the stadium together.
Right.
I think they need to be in that stadium as many times as possible to get people on board, because it's been a rough, last 2 to 3 years. So, again, I thought it was a great idea to have it in Little Rock. I'm not opposed to it, but I think everything happens for a reason, and I think it allows Sam Pittman to really immerse himself within the Fayetteville culture and the Fayetteville fan base here, and build a relationship.
For those that have just tuned in to OTH here, our topic of today, the question of the day, where are you at with the decision that Arkansas will play its spring game, April 25th in Fayetteville, as opposed to Little Rock? As a fan, give me your honest opinion. There's no right or wrong, but with that, please interact with us on this. I'm for it. I think it's a home run, especially when it's your first year of the new head coach, the new program. I think that's something that you really need to have is your spring game on your campus, that at least that first initial year, because I think that's going to be something that you really can use as far as recruiting goes. That's just my humble opinion. Nick Lee said he didn't understand why it was denied. Who cares where you have a spring game in your state? They would have just as many fans in Little Rock as they would in Fayetteville. I'm able to see it in Fayetteville, though. Where you at, Demetrius? Nick always come up with the good ones. So shout out to Nick Lee. Want to thank Nick for that comment. Your opinion. Nick seems to be okay with it. But I think, Nick, my response would be, I get that point, but when you have to think about the recruiting side of things, and it's all about the Jimmies and the Joes in the SEC, especially in football. So anytime you can get that big-time football player to visit your campus, because who knows if you played in Little Rock, he can only come to Little Rock. It's not about seeing the fans. It's about seeing the whole enchilada, the facilities. Where he's going to be going to school. Where he's going to be lifting weights. When you can get that opportunity, and hopefully it's an unofficial visit, then you spark the mind of that young man, because he's on the campus. He's in the stadium that he will mostly play. He's only going to play in Little Rock 4 times in his career. You want him to be in the stadium and in that surrounding where I think, that's going to have the biggest impact on him. So I'm really for the Fayetteville thing. I just don't, what you name me at what other program, Demetrius, in the SEC plays their spring game 2.5 hours away from their university? Who else is doing that?
Nobody. And I think that's a good point. Anytime you can bring and not just one, guys that may not even be interested in Arkansas because it's a spring game. Does that count as an official visit? I don't think it does for a spring game, does it? Yeah,
you can take an official visit. They can unofficially visit Little Rock, but then you got to turn around and go home. So you're driving from all parts of whatever state you're coming from just to drive to Little Rock for 2 hours and then go back home. Coaches are not allowed to talk to you. They can't show you anything.
But unofficials, they can take unofficials to the spring game as well.
Yes, they can take officials. Now you can take an official or an unofficial by having it here in Fayetteville on April 25th.
And explain that to listeners. I don't think they really understand that unofficial, official.
Most of them pretty much do, but an unofficial visit to Little Rock, you can't go over, I believe it's 100 and some odd miles to a campus. So I think, like I said, unofficial, I just don't know why you would take an unofficial if you're a top prospect looking or considering Arkansas. And I'm not saying that, with any disrespect to War Memorial Stadium, but you got to play where home is. You just have to play where your home field is. It's in the SEC. I mean, the slightest advantage could be the biggest advantage. And that's just the way it is. I mean, you're in the SEC, especially, Demetrius, when you think about that, the SEC West is so dadgum competitive that, I mean, when in Rome, you got to do what the Romans do. You got to have the arsenal that they have. I mean, you know, Coach Pittman said it best in his press conference when, you know, in his announcement when he was named the head coach. Recruiting on steroids, and that's the way it is. And so every little inch in recruiting could make or break, you know, where you end up 3 or 4 years down the road, in my opinion. But let's see. Let's check out. We had a question about Reggie Chaney. Do you think Reggie Chaney, and this was from Steve Armin, great question, Steve. Do you think, Demetrius, Reggie Chaney will come back next season? In your opinion, he only now mind you, only played 4 minutes and 46 seconds this past Saturday.
You know, I don't know. I think it's because even if he does decide to stay, I think it's going to be a lot of competition with the younger guys that's coming in. So with already the limited role that he has within the team, it's even going to grow smaller because I think it's guys that can come in and do what he can do and add an offensive presence. And I think any coach likes a player that can play defense and offense. And I kind of feel Reggie game is kind of one-dimensional when you look at it from an offensive versus defensive standpoint. I like his defense, but even that, it's not just lockdown defense. He tends to get in a lot of foul trouble, and that tends to hurt the team sometimes. So, you know, I'm not going to say he transfers because I think he can also be that glue guy that kind of comes off the bench and still adds those solid minutes. But, you know, that's a Reggie Chaney decision.
Well, we're caught up with a couple of Razorbacks following their must-win, you have to say. Sophomores, Isaiah Joe and Desi Sills made their way to the media press room for postgame on this following Saturday, and it's what they had to say about that performance, that you know, and getting one of their brothers back, how that felt. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it.
Did you expect to play that? I think you played 38 minutes. Obviously, scored 21. Did you expect to play that long and that well? And just what was it like being back?
It was good being back. I mean, you know, I think we were going to monitor my minutes a little bit more, but in the Florida game, you know, I felt great out there, so they weren't going to pull me. But it just felt good to be back out there with my brothers, man, with my teammates. Being on the bench, I just got to be a cheerleader. But now being out there and being able to contribute is a great feeling.
It's not just about how many shots you make. Sometimes it's when you make them. You guys seem to always have an answer when they make a run. How big were those shots, obviously, to get a win after losing 5 straight?
Oh, those shots are huge, man. You got to be able to answer to other teams. Like Ledez made like 3 big ones down the stretch, and you got to have those to win games. And we executed well at the end.
At the end of the day, we had 5 straight. We was missing a key factor to our team, Isaiah Joe, and he came back in today, and he showed why he one of the top guards in the SEC.
Yeah, Desi coming off the bench today to score 17 points but to shoot the ball and be efficient doing it, how did that feel?
I think it feels good because like every time I come out the bench, I come with a chip on my shoulder, even though I got to come each game like that. But like coming out the bench, I just got to do what I got to do to help my team win, and I feel like I did that in every aspect today.
I guess they got off the usual big start that you all had to overcome. Just kind of what made the difference in that 10-0 run, and just how good was it for you hitting that 1-3 to kind of get going?
Yeah, I mean, it was good to have that run because basketball is a game of runs, but we gotta be able to work on that and fix that. We can't get down that amount of points to every team because some teams is going to be a lot tougher to come back on. Fortunately, we were able to make an adjustment and get back in the roll of the game.
The 3-pointer that you hit, did that kind of get you going?
Oh yeah, just to see one go in, man. Just all I needed to see one bucket go in, a free throw, a layup, a 3. It doesn't matter. I just need to see it go in the hole. And then my teammates, I mean, they rely on me and they trust me, and I trust them.
Yeah, they look like early on in the game, first few minutes, you weren't getting the ball a lot. And then I think you hit 2 free throws when you guys were down by 13, started that run. Then you hit a couple threes and then some more free throws. Were you just kind of feeling your way back a little bit early, or what was?
No, the first few minutes about getting back into the flow of the game, you know, they did a real good job trying to face guard me, and so I wasn't gonna force anything. I was gonna let it come to me.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk on KDSJ 479. Real quick, want to give a shout out to our sponsors. With that being said, Lindsay and Associates with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting. And lastly, the spot that I really, really, really love, and you have to get down to, they're located at 989 South Razorback Road. That would be no other than KDK's Chicken. And like they say, it's not your mama's, the best chicken and waffles and whatever else, Demetrius, they got. It's just a great place. Go down and see Keith and Kathy. Get a plate of that love and, just fellowship with them. And it's a great, great environment. They're located, like I said, at 989 South Razorback Road. But you heard audio from sophomores Isaiah Joe and Desi Seals talking about, that big win, getting Mr. Isaiah Joe back. And I thought, in my humble opinion, he makes the spacing to the liking of what Coach Musselman, came when he was hired, the pace with space. And it does. I mean, it makes a lot of extra driving lanes. I think Mason Jones, that's going to be the big question for me going forward is how will he get back to adjusting, now that Isaiah is back in the rotation and is going to have a lot of the, the onus of himself as well to put points on the board, Demetrius. But that was a question that was asked of us, and I want to get your opinion, and I'll chime in. Should the spring game, and this was from Nick Lee, yet another great question, should the spring game be a practice or a scrimmage? In your opinion?
I think it needs to be a scrimmage. I think right now Sam Pittman needs to see as much real live action and no thud action. Cause we call it thud. When you don't really fully run through the player and you just kind of tap them on the butt or around the waist to show you that you tackle. I think right now Sam Pittman really has to understand what he has, and you have to see it at a 100% rate.
Right.
I think that gives him a realistic perspective of what the team really offers going into the summer and understands what they really need to work on. If you go in with a practice, it's just a glorified practice. That's a self-esteem thing. And I think Sam Pittman does things that build self-esteem, but I think he really wants to get a realistic gauge of what's going on. Now, I think, there might be a couple of players out there with green jerseys where, you maybe can't take them to the ground.
Right.
Of course, your quarterback will probably have a green jersey where you can't sack him. But I think for the most part, he's going to have as much live action and 100% action as possible.
Nah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, Demetrius could not have wrapped it up, said it any better. I mean, the only thing I can add is get ready for a scrimmage. It's going to be a very, very competitive scrimmage, knowing the culture that I think Coach Sam Pittman and that staff are bringing to the University of Arkansas. I mean, now that's all no. He's an offensive line guy. He understands the physicality in which you have to play, and you've got to do it early. You got to do it in spring ball and continue it in the fall camp, but you have to establish your culture. And I think that's where there was Demetrius, there was a disconnect with Chad Morris and his, in this previous staff. I think what we're going to see when we go to practices, I think there's going to be a lot of teaching. I think when they're in team, I think there's going to be, if it's not done right, I think it will be stopped. They will go through the steps. It's not about the amount of plays that you run, but it's about how well you run the amount of plays that you do run, if you can kind of understand what I'm saying. And I think that's on both sides of the football. There's going to be a lot more teaching, not so much to try to get in a lot and not show these kids and let them start to create bad habits. I think that's what it's going to be. So I think it's going to be a big-time scrimmage. I think they're going to really get after it. I think the teams, and when you look at this football team, Demetrius, man, you talked about it, there's a lot of talent on this team. There was 52, think about this, 52 people that were brought in under the Morris era, and now 35 more. But when you really look at this roster, the talent's there. It just needs to be developed and put in a position to really be successful. And I think that's what this is going to do, this scrimmage and this spring practice. But I think it's starting in the weight room with Coach Walker. And by the way, all the reports that I've heard and been able to see that the university shares out on social media, these kids are looking a lot more physically SEC ready from all the activities that I had a chance to see. But we're going to take one more quick break. We caught up yesterday with Dave Van Horn, head baseball coach of all of your Arkansas Razorbacks, the 7-0 Razorbacks, after following a sweep of the Gonzaga ball club. And this is what Coach Van Horn had to say. Momentarily, we'll have that. But more, and the question was, for those that have just tuned in, what's your take with the SEC announcing that Arkansas will not be permitted to play their spring game at War Memorial Stadium April 25th? But think about that, and here's DVH, and we'll be back. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it.
I think that our pitchers did a good job with runners on bases. I mean, we gave them a run or two by making a mistake or two in the field, and had a ball get to the backstop with 2 outs, runner at third, and I think that runner got on a ground ball that was kind of left in the dirt, and they took advantage of a couple things, but our pitchers seemed to find a way to make a big pitch, say runners at second and third, 2 down, first, third, 2 down. And, I think you think back on the one inning, they had runners at first and second, nobody out. I think we only ended up giving up 1 run. And that was really good to see. I mean, you think about Denton's outing was outstanding. Came in and went through 4, 5, and 6 in the order, somewhere in there, and got 3 strikeouts. And that was big time for us. So we did a really nice job out of the bullpen today. Really good job.
Think of the way that Caleb pitched, and then does he maybe factor in as your third starter on the weekend right now?
At first, I think he pitched really well. For 2 innings, the first inning was outstanding. Second inning was really good. It almost looked like he started getting a little bit tired, a little fatigued, even though the pitch count wasn't up. He hasn't really done this and competed, had the adrenaline going. It's been a while. He threw last weekend, but when I say multiple innings, multiple pitches. But I thought his stuff was pretty good, and he came out and threw nothing but strikes for the most part, which was what we wanted. So, he'd have an opportunity to get in there and pitch on the weekend. So, but we answered a lot of questions this weekend about our bullpen and some guys coming out and doing a good job. You think about Tress coming in, the 2 days, Vermillion, boy, his stuff was nasty today. I mean, he's throwing the ball mid-90s with
Welcome back to On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, coming to you here on KDSJ 479 Monday through Friday. Yes, we will be in Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m., bringing you all of Arkansas Razorback information, all SEC information to the update, as exclusive as we can bring it to you here. The question was, where are you at with Arkansas not being able to play its spring game in the April 25th in Little Rock War Memorial Stadium? It's now April 25th will be at Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. I said I was cool with it. Demetrius had no issue with it. And I think what we both meant by that was for recruiting purposes. It's like I said, it's about getting Jimmys and Joes, Demetrius. That's all it's about, Jimmys and Joes. And with football being pretty much the cash cow, I mean, you got to play the spring game in Fayetteville. If every school, if all 13 other schools are doing it, you have to do it. Are you in agreement with me on that?
Not necessarily to that degree, but I think it just makes sense in this situation. I think whenever you have tradition and you're winning and you have things established, you can kind of break the norm and go outside that box of what you normally do. But I think where Arkansas is, I think we need to start from the ground up and kind of build that foundation and build that rapport. Because I think there's a lot of people that still don't believe in Sam, regardless of the immediate success he had from a recruiting standpoint. But again, I think they're going to get to meet him for themselves and really get a chance to see the product on the field.
Also, too, want to make a note, Arkansas and Coach Neighbors, Arkansas Lady Razorbacks, and Coach Mike Neighbors were, I ain't even going to call it, I'm just going to say they were robbed. As they lost 83-80, I mean, I'm just going to say they were robbed. SEC officiating, Demetrius, to me, is absolutely hideous right now. I'm seeing things in the girls' game, where they're allowing young ladies to play on the physical side, but turn around on the men's side, and then that same type of officiating is not being allowed. Now I know, both sports are different, but the way they were robbed yesterday, we'll just leave it at that. But as I say, SEC officiating absolutely not up to standard, and it hasn't been either on the girls' side or the men's side. Officiating in basketball this year has to step it up in this conference. There's too many great athletes, too many great programs, coaches, working their tails off to have certain calls that are obvious calls, Demetrius, not being called. And it just seems like, and people are going to say when I say this is you're being a homer, but I'm being real. Always seems that if Arkansas is ever in a situation where there's some touchy calls, most of the time it's going against the Cardinal and White. I mean, where are you at with that? I mean, with the officiating that you see, because you go to a lot of the football games. You're always in attendance. Sideline, I might add, which.
Oh, definitely from a football.
Yeah,
anytime you play, you have Arkansas, Alabama, and there's maybe a 50-50 call. It's really not 50-50. It's 80-20, and it's usually going to go Alabama's way, or even when we play LSU.
Right.
But I think still Arkansas sometimes shoots themselves in the foot and don't put themselves in position to capitalize and kind of avoid situations like that, because there's a tendency for us not to get calls like that,
right.
and we know it, So, I'm not gonna say there's something against the officials with Arkansas, but I think sometimes they have to find a better way to control the game, because I know college sports is big money, and I'm not
right.
saying guys are manipulating the games, but I think they have to find a better system of how they find referees, whether it's go get referees out of conference and maybe switch it up. But there has to be a better system to get a variety of coaches, referees, or some type of referee clinics that these guys can go to, because it's hard. I ref at AAO and I'm still learning, so I can understand the pressure of calling certain fouls in the split second, and having to make those calls. But it's part of the game, though.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, it can be, but it's intimidating too. When people think you should call.
It's just these officials in the SEC this year are just doing a bad job. I mean, I can't say that it's a hard one. It's a spade, and it's a spade. You have to call a spade a spade. The officiating in the SEC this year has not been up to standard. A lot of blown calls, and like I said, when I said that about Arkansas, I'm really like throwing everybody in there. I mean, there's been bad calls that I've watched that's gone against other football programs and other basketball programs during their particular conference seasons, and you can't have that. You can't have obvious calls not being called. You just can't have that, and that's the problem that I have. But Arkansas, like I said, faced Missouri. Isaiah Joe returned and promptly went 5 of 10 from the three-point line, and we caught up as Demetrius is about to have Missouri's head coach Quanzo Martin some audio that Quanzo says he feels about Isaiah Joe, and I think it's something really, really interesting and really exemplifies what we said at the onset of the show, Demetrius. The value that I think if Arkansas can get on this run, or some type of run and string these wins together, they got a chance when you think about it. And think about this, Razorback fans and viewers. 7 more opportunities to get quad 1 wins, with that being once they get into the SEC tournament. So if you can end well, go about 500, 9-9, and then get into that that SEC tournament and get you about 2 wins, because you're going to have 7 opportunities. I think you get into the NCAA tournament. But we caught up with head coach from the Missouri Tigers, Quanzo Martin. This is what he had to say about just Arkansas, and in particular, sophomore shooting guard sensation Isaiah Joe. We'll let you hear, and then we'll be back to conclude today. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it.
Oh, man, talented player. You only have to finish your sentence. Talented player. He's gifted. Anytime you've been out that long and shoot the ball like that, which, again, he shot it like that last year. Just shows a level of confidence. It's impressive. I mean, he shot it. I mean, that last three, man, some coaches might say, yeah, that's confidence. That's a legit stroke. I mean, probably the best in America.
Were you surprised that he played that way coming off missing 5 games?
Not really. If he's out there, he's out there. I'm not sure what went into if he had surgery, legitimately what went into it and all the rehab. I don't know that. I mean, I just think he played with a level of confidence. Of course, he was ready to go because he started the game, so I'd imagine he's ready to go.
How different are they? You played them before without Joe. How different are they?
They're different teams. A good player. He's an all-league guy. I mean, he's a guy when it's all said and done. He'll play for 15 years when it's all said and done, whatever that is. But not many guys can shoot the ball like that. I mean, he can stroke it. So but we have to do a better job. And a couple he made tough shots, and we have to do a better job of making him work for baskets. Same way with Desi. Desi played well. He made 3 threes, and 3 threes on our breakdown. But he made them.
Phils didn't score their last game in Florida. Did you maybe expect him to bounce back?
Oh, he's a tough kid. I mean, he's a basketball player. He's a tough kid. We knew what he was about going into a game. So, I mean, that we knew he could play. We knew he could shoot the ball. We knew he could drive the ball. Yeah.
You guys got a lot at the home game getting to the basket. Looked like Isaiah Joe on the defensive side walled off some of your drives. Drew Smith, in particular, in the fourth quarter. Can you talk about him defensively?
Not that I noticed a lot, not to say he was good or bad, so I'm not saying that. I just kind of watch how we flow in the game, in particular, and just opportunities for us to score the ball. But if he did, then great job. But I didn't focus like that, really.
I guess they outscored. You know, they had 12 threes, you hit 4. How good was their three-point defense, or was that just a rough shooting game for you guys? Or?
Oh, yeah, I mean, they're one of the best teams in the country, so you have to say it was good. So you have to give them credit. I would imagine we'd make more if we were wide open and nobody's on the floor. But so give them credit for doing a good job of making us take tough ones. That's why they're driving up.
Welcome back to OTH here on KDSJ 479. It's our Monday edition, as we're glad to be back on. I know we missed our viewers and our listeners pretty heavily over that last week, but everything's all good. Like you said, when you got to take care of what you have to take care of so you don't have to take care of it later, you're in good shape, and that's what we did. And like I said, we're glad to be back on. But we'll let you hear audio from Missouri head basketball coach Quanzo Martin, and talked about just the stroke, the way that Isaiah Joe impacts the game, and the way he shoots the basketball. Cause says that Isaiah could be the best shooter in the country, and I'm not going to too much argue with him. But I really do think that Isaiah, and you're going to start hearing talk. Should he go on after his sophomore year? I think, on my own personal opinion, but he's his own man, has his own family. They'll make their own decision for what's best for the Joe camp. I think it would be really, really good if Isaiah were to come back for his junior year. Now, after his junior year, adios. But to come back, just work on a little bit more ball handling, being able to put the ball on the floor, create for himself and others. I think that's the only part. And, maybe take that off season in the summer leading into his junior year to put on about another 10 to maybe 15 pounds and get himself ready. But like I said, his junior year after that, adios. It's over with. Go make your money. That's my own personal opinion. But I think if he does decide to come out early, Demetrius, the kid's going to make money. I mean, the kid has one of the prettiest strokes that I've seen, and I've had the privilege to ref basketball since this young man was in the 3rd and 4th grade when he came up through the Hawks organization. So I'm very familiar with the stroke that he has. So, but that's just some of the things I look out, because I think if you're able to now, with the way NBA is, to have a really beautiful shot, but able to do things off the bounce and be able to put the ball on the floor, you're going to be one of those players that's going to have a long tradition of playing professional basketball. Now, I don't care where it's at, but you're going to be in there making money for yourself, because you can do it all. My own personal opinion. But like I said, having him back, it was quite obvious on Saturday that he did impact the basketball game. And that's what Eric said at the onset. Well, we also want to thank, we're going to wrap it up today, and thank all of our viewers for chiming in. Nate, keep coming with it. Keep coming with those great questions. I want to thank Edwin for watching. Joel, man, Steve, great questions. Larry Brown, our always great supporter, Mr. Terry Roy, for your viewership, and all those that tuned in for just the amount of minutes or time that you were able to chime in and just be a part of our show. We want to thank you. And lastly, before we get out of here, got to do it. Got to pay bills. We want to give a shout out to Lindsay and Associates with an office location in Fayetteville and an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion is located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. And another, Corey Beck's Custom Painting. If anything you want to look good, contact Corey Beck. I know he worked on our place, and I'm still smiling since the day he left this building. Also, too, lastly, you got to get down there. I'm telling you, you have to get down there. KDK's Chicken. They're located at 989 South Razorback Road. Get on down there. They got a sign that says it's not your mama's, and they ain't kidding. It's the best chicken and waffles in the South. Get down and see Keith and Kathy. Go get a plate of that love and just have fellowship with them. But that's going to do it for myself, for my producer, Demetrius, to you all. We'll be back tomorrow with much more hogs and SEC and whatever else we can come up with. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one, and you know what we say. Let's get it.